beginner hat.
In today's video, I want to show you how to make this really good looking hat that's perfect for men, women, children, great for beginners because we work in rows, not rounds, and then we join the hat together at the end. It's super simple. It also combines two of my favorite stitches for a hat pattern, and this hat was done in Be So Tender, which is 100% organic cotton worsted weight yarn. You only need one ball to make this hat. This was done in colorway Raven, and the yarn comes in 19 colors that are all low impact dyes. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make the hat in colorway Blush. Let's get started. We're going to start by tying our yarn onto our crochet hook. You can use a slip knot or a solid knot, whichever you prefer. And we're going to start by working some foundation single crochets. And the reason I do foundation single crochets is because I want to make sure that my beginning and end of the flat project are equal in gauge, so that when we sew it together, actually we're not sewing it together, we're going to single crochet it together. But you see, this is my seam line, and you see how beautiful it looks in the pattern, and it doesn't pull or give. If there was a chain on one side and then stitches on the other, the chain would be shorter and you would actually see some puckering here. So in order to create a perfectly seamed hat with stitches, we're going to start with stitches instead of a chain, and that means we're going to do foundation single crochet. So we start with a chain 2, and then we're going to work an extended single crochet into the second chain from our hook. The loop on the crochet hook is our working yarn. We're not counting that. Counting back 2 chains would be, this is the first one and that's the second one. You're going to insert your crochet hook into the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. That's an extended single crochet, and the point that the most important point of this is to recognize this vertical bar right here. This is the vertical bar we're going to work our next stitch in. So we're going to insert our crochet hook into that vertical bar made in the last stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. So you'll see on this side we have our foundation single crochets done. On this side we have those beginning chain vertical bar loops. And so at this point our first chain 2 counted as our first stitch, then we have a second stitch and a third stitch. We want a total of 33 foundation single crochets to begin. Okay, so we worked into that vertical bar, so now after this stitch is made, we're now going to work into its vertical bar on the left. Okay, so the chain 2 count as our first stitch. We have 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches done. We want a total of 33. Okay, counting our chain 2 as our first stitch and working 32 more foundation single crochets, we now have a total of 33 foundation crochets. This is what the end of row 1 should look like. Row 2 begins with a chain 2 that counts as our first half double crochet, and what that means is that chain 2 space is going to count as the stitch that would be worked over that first stitch. So we chain 2, turn our work, that chain 2 counts as our first stitch, so we're going to skip the first stitch, and then we're going to work a half double crochet through the back loop only in the next stitch. So what you want to do is look at the top of the stitch. See how the top of the stitches have a V? And when you're looking at it straight on, you don't quite see it. So you want to tilt the work towards you a little bit, and you see these V's. We're only going to work into the back loop. Normally we'd work through both loops, but for this we're going to work through the back loop only. So a half double crochet is yarn over your hook, insert your hook into the back loop only of the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. We now have 3 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. That's a half double crochet through the back loop only. And we're going to repeat this across the entire row. So just remember to pivot the work towards you if you're having trouble seeing the back loop only. Okay, I want to make sure I'm getting the right stitches done, so we want to make sure we have a total of 33. We started with a chain 2 that counts as our first stitch, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. Okay, we're ready to do our 33rd stitch, and I wanted you to remember that we started the last row with a chain 2 that counted as our first stitch. So we're going to work our last stitch right into that chain. This is what the end of row 2 should look like, and you should have 33 half double crochet. Row 3 begins with a chain 1, which doesn't count as a stitch. We're going to chain 1, turn our work, and work a single crochet through the back loop only in each stitch across. So unlike the half double crochet row, we're going to work in every stitch because the chain doesn't count as a stitch. So we're going to insert our crochet hook into the back loop only of the first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. That's a single crochet through the back loop only, and you want to repeat that across the entire row. Again, if you're ever having any trouble recognizing the back loop only as you're working, you want to make sure you just pivot your work towards you a little bit, and then you can see the back loop very easily. And the entire row is single crochet through the back loop only. Okay, remember there was a chain 2 that counted as our first stitch at the beginning of the last row. So you want to work your last single crochet into the chain 2 space to count as that would be our last stitch. So the last stitch is actually a little different. It's worked into the chain 2 space instead of the back loop only of a half double crochet. This is what the end of row 3 should look like. In row 4, we are repeating row 2. So it starts with a chain 2, turn your work, skip the first stitch, and half double crochet through the back loop only in each stitch across. This is what the end of row 4 should look like. Row 5 is a repeat of row 3. We're going to chain 1, turn our work, and work 1 single crochet through the back loop only in each stitch across. This is what the end of row 5 should look like. We're going to repeat rows 2 and 3 throughout. What we're doing now is create the number of rows we make creates the circumference of the hat. So based on our gauge, we're going to do a total of 40 rows. In order to end on row 40, we're going to work rows 2 and 3 repeatedly and then end on a row 2 or a half double crochet row. If you download the free pattern on my website, there will be information about modifying the size of this hat to create different sizes for a baby, a child, a woman, or a man. This particular size is for a woman's slouchy hat. So let's continue on working rows 2 and 3. And then through row 39, and then row 40 ending on a row 2, and then I'll show you how we finish it all up. Okay, we have rows 1 through 40 complete. We're now going to fold our length in half so that our last row worked is lined up with our beginning chain. And when I say beginning chain, it really is kind of a misnomer because we did foundation single crochet instead of a chain. But if you notice, because of the way we do foundation single crochet, you still have the free loops on the opposite side of that first row, just like you would in a beginning chain. So it makes it really fantastic for joining to the other row. So we're going to start with a chain 1, and remember we ended on a half double crochet row, so we're going to do a single crochet row now. starting with single crochet through the back loop of the last stitch on the last row worked, and inserting your crochet hook also into that free loop of the chain on the opposite end of row 1. And then we're going to yarn over and pull through both loops, yarn over, pull through 2. So it's a single crochet through the back loop only, including the working 2 thicknesses together, the last row, row 40, and the opposite side of row 1. So we'll do that again. Insert your crochet hook into the back loop only of the next stitch on row 40, and also into the next free loop on the opposite side of row 1. Yarn over, pull through both loops, and then yarn over, pull through 2. We're going to repeat that across the entire row. Okay, so now we have all of our stitches joined from row 1 to row 40. And if you notice, look at how beautiful that looks with the stitch pattern. It looks almost invisible. And you can see on the other side it's invisible as well. So depending on which side you prefer for your hat, this particular stitch pattern looks slightly different on both sides, but both pretty. You can see that the actual join is almost invisible on both sides. It gives that same texture, which is really wonderful. Okay, so now we're ready to close up our crown of the hat. So this would be the bottom portion. We're going to weave in this loose end, and this is the edge that sits on your head, or on your, like around your face, your eyebrows. That's the opening of the hat. And then on the other side here, we now want to close this up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is work a single crochet 2 together in rows 2 and 4 over 4 rows. And what I mean by that is you want, and the easiest way to do it is see that ridge that lines up every other row. I'm going to insert my crochet hook over that ridge, pull up a loop, insert my crochet hook on top of the next ridge, yarn over, pull up a loop, and yarn over, pull through 2. So what I've done is there was 1 row from the seam, 2 rows from the seam, 3 rows, 4 rows. In the second and 4th row from where I was, I picked up a stitch and single crocheted them both together. So I was working over 4 stitches, over 4 rows, but did a single crochet together into every other row. So we'll do that again here, and the easiest way to reference it to keep your stitches even is that I like to line up where those like V-stitch columns are, and I'm going to insert my crochet hook at the top of those. So yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. So we'll go over now. And remember, we're doing this to really decrease heavily. So I know it looks like we're stretching a far distance between our stitches, but that's because we are trying to cinch everything up. So now we'll single crochet together. We'll skip a row, pick up a stitch, skip a row, pick up a stitch, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on our hook. And we're going to repeat this all the way around, and we'll have a total of 10 stitches. And depending on which size hat you make, you may have a different number of stitches. Remember, when you go to the free pattern to download on my website, there will be information on how to modify this hat based on the gauge to create different size hats from newborn, toddler, child, adult woman, and adult man. Okay, we've made it all the way around, so we're going to slip stitch to join to our first stitch at the beginning of the round. And you see we now have 10 stitches at the top, and our hat is very heavily decreased so that we now have the beginning of a crown. Now at this point you could leave this open and be part of that really great trend of the messy bun hat or ponytail hat. This would be fine for that, but now I'm going to show you how we cinch this up all the way. I'm going to cut my yarn, leaving a longer tail, and fasten off. Then with my yarn needle, thread the yarn onto my needle. And we're going to weave through those stitches on that last round and then cinch them together. You could add a pom-pom to the top of this hat. You could add a flower to the top of the hat. You could add one of those really cool furry looking pom-poms at the top of the hat. There's all sorts of things you could do to embellish this, or you could just leave it, whoops, missed one, or you could just leave it the way it is. You could embellish the bottom of the hat with a flower. I love an offset flower at the bottom rim of a hat. I'm showing you like down here where it would be offset, so not right in the center of your head, but off to the side, like over, not quite over an ear, but just offset from your face. I think that's so cute. I once designed a hat for my niece when she was little, and I did a flower on each side, and she looked like a little Princess Leia. It was so adorable. Okay, so now we'll just cinch this all the way, and we'll secure it with a knot so that it stays in place. Okay, I'm going to thread my yarn through to the wrong side of the fabric. And this depends on which side of the hat you like better. It doesn't really matter. It actually is quite reversible. Even in the way that we join it and cinch it and all these other techniques for assembling it, it still remains completely reversible. So you just want to do a really nice job of weaving in your loose ends, going back and forth in different directions so that it stays secure. Okay, so you're just going to weave back and forth several times to get it nice and secure in there so that when it's washed, the ends don't pop back out. So you want to go in different directions and do that for several inches. And give it a little snip. We'll do the same thing to our end tail here. And there we have a super duper easy and beautiful beginner hat that's worked in rows, not rounds. when you go to my website to download the free pattern, there are instructions for doing this in a multiple of sizes, and you can also get information on ordering this beautiful yarn, Be So Tender, 100% organic cotton, worsted weight. You only need one ball to make this beautiful. Please subscribe to my channel for more videos.